So I also have the pleasure of introducing to you all our panel facilitator today, Corinne Waldow. She is currently our chair for our Workforce Development Board for Workforce Boulder County. She's also the Director of Workforce Programs and manages all workforce development initiatives at the Boulder Chamber, as well as programs and events at the Chamber. So please join me with a warm applause for Corinne.
Good morning. I'm really excited about this panel today because it's something I'm very passionate about, work-based learning model as well as the apprenticeship model. With a tight labor market, businesses have to employ alternative hiring methods to find qualified and trained talent here. More and more employers are moving towards work-based learning models, as Erin described. They combine career training on the job with education. So we have a great panel for you today, including representatives from companies pursuing apprenticeship programs in different industries, and a state representative focused on apprenticeships. Please join me in welcoming Maureen McCann from Home Care of the Rockies, Chris Magyar from Tectonic Group, Kim Hagel from REO, Susie Artis from Centura Health, and Jennifer Juris-Rack from the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment. So I'm going to ask a few questions of the panel just to get us started. But really, questions should come from you. So if you have any questions, please ask them. So I'm going to begin with just letting you get to know these folks on stage first. And then we'll move into a few more questions that may spark some of the things in your brains, some questions you might have about apprenticeships. So I'm going to ask this question to Maureen, Chris, Kim, and Susie. Could you please describe yourself and your organization and what challenge your organization faced that led to developing an apprenticeship model?
My name is Maureen McCann. I'm with Home Care of the Rockies. Can you hear me? Oh, good. I don't want to use the microphone. So Home Care of the Rockies, my sister Sandy and I started the business in 2012. And literally from day one, we had a caregiver shortage workforce issue. In the past, and we're really trying to do something to change this. Caregiving in general really was more of a low skill, low level, low paying job. And but a couple years ago, we set out to change the face of that because we really wanted to increase the level of professionalism for caregivers and the caregiving profession. And what we also knew was because of the sheer numbers of older adults needing our services, and the people that needed to enter this workforce. Okay. The sheer numbers of older adults that need our services. I think I have a statistic is 1.3 people need to enter this workforce in order to be able to serve the older adult community. Because literally, with the baby boomers, the need for our services is exponential. And because so many caregivers come with various levels of skill, from a little bit of skills to 20 years of service, we wanted to get them all on the same page. So we knew that a work-based learning model was needed to be developed because of the fact that the needs of our older adults, the level of care that's needed has significantly changed. Gone are the companionship days, what people used to call babysitting. Those days are gone. The needs of our older adults and the care and their situation is becoming so much more complex, and our caregivers need to learn the skills. So, and because of the fact that they are in their economic situation, that they can't go to school to become a caregiver and then start work. So we knew that we needed to develop a model that they can start learning and then and continue to learn as they progress on the job. Is that it?
Chris?
Good morning, Chris Magyar with the Tectonic Group. We're a software development company located in Boulder, Colorado. We've been around for about 17 years. And the previous model was Heather Trenzio, our CEO, and her partner Manuel Charca. They would sell projects locally across the country and then ship all of the development work to Eastern Europe, offshoring as it's called. And the model worked for a while, but as they realized they were spending so much time hand-holding this offshore team, communication issues, time zone issues, quality issues, they decided that, there's got to be a better way. What can we do to start building a development team here in Boulder? Well, talent is expensive, talent is hard to find, and this was in 2014. So Heather thought, well, geez, as much babysitting as we did with our offshore team, what if we were to hire a senior developer or two and bring on individuals who wanted to get into technology, who wanted to get into software development, but didn't have a pathway to get there. Traditionally in the past, software developers, companies would require individuals to have college degrees before they could get into software development with the company. You can't get into a company if you don't have any experience. Well, you can't get any experience if you can't get into a company. So how do we break this paradigm? So she was actually speaking, and some of you have probably heard Heather talk before. She was speaking at I think, the workforce lunch or something, about her vision to bring new talent into the company via an apprenticeship model, calling it an apprenticeship model. And this young man who's working on the catering staff came up to her and said, I've been teaching myself to code at home. I can't find a job because I don't have any experience. I can't get any experience because I can't find a job. I'd love to come work for you. I'll be the best developer that, I can be under your tutelage. And that was sort of the on-ramp into this apprenticeship program. They brought him on board. It worked. They would bring on 2 or 3 people at a time, train them. And then I believe it was someone from the Boulder workforce said, Heather, you really should register this, quote, apprenticeship as a true Department of Labor apprenticeship. So Heather worked with the Department of Labor on, here's what we want to do. This had never been done before. Worked with the DOL to change some of the forms of the process. And in 2016, we received our Department of Labor registration for our software developer apprenticeship. It was the first apprenticeship of its kind in the country, and that was the launch of the true apprenticeship. And again, what really drove us is the fact that talent's hard to find. How do we tap into some of those hidden gems that are out there that as you mentioned, have to work and they can't really go to college, can't afford to go to college. And also part of what Heather wanted to do was to increase inclusion and diversity within technology. 75% white males, and how can we do this? And I know we'll talk later about where we are and what it's done for us, but it's really been an incredible model, because what we provide in apprenticeship is classroom training, and then they move on to one of our development teams for about 3 months of the total of 6, where they get guidance from our senior developers. And we've seen that within 6 months, we can train somebody who maybe had a little exposure to tech to really be a junior developer. And it's just been a great model for us. It's provided great opportunity for those that get into our program, and also for our clients and for our company. So it's really been disruptive in the IT industry. There's nothing like this out there, and that has given us some great exposure at the national level to about our company, which has provided more projects, which gives us the opportunity to bring on more apprentices. So it's been a very rewarding for us.
Thanks, Chris. Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim, and our company is Research Electro-Optics. We make precision optical components that go into lasers, navigation systems for airplanes, so we do a lot of defense and aerospace work. A little over 3 years ago, we were faced with an aging workforce, and you don't train somebody to shape an optic and learn to put thin film coatings on an optic in an hour. It takes years of practice. And so we said we're going to have to control our own destiny, and so we got some of our senior opticians together, some of which who had been through some type of apprenticeship program either in Canada or in Europe, and they helped us design a 3-year program. We then invited our industry partners, because Colorado is actually an optics hub. There's a lot of optics manufacturing companies, or companies like Ball Aerospace and Lockheed Martin, things like that, that use optics in their systems. And we partnered with them and said, all we're doing is stealing employees from each other, so let's all work together and come up with this program. And we also partnered with Front Range Community College. So we developed a curriculum, an optics apprenticeship, optics fabrication technician certificate program with Front Range. And I'm happy to say after 3 years, we finally got it for credit, and it's also available for financial aid. So that's a big help. I spent a lot of time in high schools over the last 3 years trying to recruit apprentices, and so I've recruited 3 on my own through my relationships with high schools. But then about a year after we got started, Colorado CareerWise started, and we have partnered with them. We were one of their first industry partners. I now have 7 apprentices from Colorado CareerWise working for us. I will tell you, when these 16-year-olds first walked through the door, some of my guys said, really? But they have just absolutely changed the landscape for us. They're bright young students, and it has been so rewarding, not just for the students, but also for our senior apprentices, or our senior technicians, training them. When I first walked through the doors of REO about 11 years ago, one of the things I noticed was this is a fantastic occupation. It's a skilled trade, and it's a fantastic occupation for young people that are maybe not interested in obtaining a 4-year degree. We've gained a lot of attention. Secretary Acosta from the Department of Labor came out to our facility and toured it and met with our apprentices and talked to us. Education Week has come out and interviewed our apprentices. So it is a great opportunity. Our single biggest challenge has been most people don't really know these types of jobs exist, and so we've spent a lot of time on the marketing side as well. But it's a rewarding program, and we're excited to be a part of it and to offer opportunities for students who thought maybe they didn't have any type of career opportunity.
Thank you, Kim. You're going to hear her quote, control her own destiny. You're going to see that's a common theme among all of these panelists today. Susie.
Yeah, so I'm Susie Artis with Centura Health. I work for the physician group side. We have about 250 clinics, primary care and specialty, across Colorado and western Kansas, and have a real need for medical assistants to fill roles for just the basic, when you go to the doctor, the person that brings you back and asks you all the questions. And it's across the nation, the shortage we've seen. What also is kind of a phenomenon with this subset of people is it's an entry level, but it's also a skilled entry level. And most of them don't choose to stay in that role. They continue on. So it's a continuous pipeline of recruiting and then training again, and recruiting and training again. So what an amazing opportunity to start an apprenticeship. We are now in our 2nd cohort of apprenticeship and have seen some really amazing results. We're hoping to continue along that journey. We currently have 12, 2 more that started up in our Durango clinics, and we're recruiting for 15 more in January. We partnered with Arapahoe Community College, went to them and asked them to do something relatively quickly that's not necessarily heard of in academia. So it's probably similar to what you did at Front Range. They took an 18-month medical assistant program and squeezed it down into 6 months for us. So our students go to Arapahoe Community College. The majority of it's online. They do go to campus on Fridays for some skills. And then the rest of their learning is on the job in our clinic. So the apprenticeship itself is about a 12-month competency-based apprenticeship, and the didactic piece of it takes 6 months.
Great, thank you, Susie. Now, Jennifer, you're going to have a different question. As the experiential learning and apprenticeship coordinator for the state, my question for you is to talk about some of the other models that are out there. How are other industries, especially those alternative industries that haven't seen apprenticeships in the past, using apprenticeships to fill some of those talent needs?
Well, I think the models that we heard this morning are all fantastic, and I love hearing how they are being developed in partnership with other agencies, in particular our workforce centers and our community colleges, recognizing that in order to create a sustainable program across ups and downs, economic ups and downs, that those partnership apprenticeship programs, those apprenticeship models are really the ones that survive. And so we at the state are really looking to continue in that path. We are seeing apprenticeships bubble up, for lack of a better word, in many different industries across the state. We heard from a few here that are not necessarily in what you would consider the traditional apprenticeship areas like the trades. We've heard of those. Those have been around for 80 years, and those are the ones that most people think about when they hear the word apprenticeship. But we have them, as you heard, in medical care, in IT, in the advanced manufacturing or the high-tech, high-skilled areas. We've got them in early childhood education is another area where we're seeing some great opportunity. We're seeing them also in hospitality, in various occupational areas within hospitality. We're also seeing them in the retail industry start to bubble up. So I think what's most exciting about that is it's providing opportunity for anyone with any passion that they have or any interest that they have in that career path. And one of the goals that we have at the Department of Labor in my role is to really be out there connecting with those non-traditional industries and helping them see the value of such a model. Not only because it helps them hopefully address some challenges that they're having, but it also opens up opportunity for those that may not have a vision of attending a four-year college or have certain barriers that may not allow them to go along that pipeline. So we're really trying to expand those opportunities. In addition to that, we're spending a lot of time, as we've heard, I think the panelists say as well, changing the perception and providing awareness of what this really is. Again, these have been around for a long time, but most don't consider them as something that would work as a business model within their company. So really trying to change that perception. I like to think of myself as a myth buster almost, because there are a lot of myths out there about what an apprenticeship model is and some of the barriers that they think are there, but they're not really there. Both on the business and industry side and on the potential apprentice side, because we've got to open up the vision of people who may benefit from these and helping them recognize that they really are in industries or in careers that they are most interested in as well.
Great, thank you. So briefly, can each of you tell me, in your experience, what are some of the benefits? I mean, you talked about some of them, but what are the benefits maybe to your bottom line, to your staff, of having apprenticeships in your office?
I mean, the benefits for the Tectonic Group have just been huge. I mean, as I mentioned, in the IT world, it's estimated that next year there'll be a 31% increase in software development jobs across the country. There's about one candidate for every 30 jobs out there. So for the Tectonic Group, our apprenticeship program is used to feed our development teams. Ours is 1,000 hours competency-based apprenticeship. They get 12 weeks of training. It's our curriculum, it's taught by our team. So one of the benefits is we get to train new talent the way we want them to be trained, not only in the technical skills, but how to work within a software development environment. From after the 12 weeks of training, they move on to the floor under one of our 6 development teams where they're mentored and guided by a senior developer. So again, we're giving them that real work experience in the way we want them to work. So by the time their apprenticeship is complete, along with, there's a competency document, they have to complete about 6 pages of technical competency to complete their apprenticeship. And at that point, we convert them to salaried employees, or we have clients who want to bring on the apprentices. So the benefit to us is that instead of, someone mentioned earlier, instead of just moving the chess pieces around the corporate board, we're actually adding new talent to the market. We're adding diverse talent to the market. And we, because of our model, you don't have to have a college degree, you've got to have the right skills to learn, and I know maybe we'll talk about that in our vetting process, but we are finding some amazing undiscovered talent who thought they would never be able to get into IT. That is just giving us some high energy, high impact folks. The diversity model also gives us different eyeballs trying to solve problems, which we've seen a lot of benefit from. And in technology today, mid-level developers, senior developers move from company to company every 12 to 13 months, I think is the average. And what we've seen with the Tectonic Group and what some of our clients have seen who have hired our apprentices, because we and our clients have given that individual an opportunity through the apprenticeship program to get into software development, there's more stickiness of those employees at the companies that at Tectonic and our clients. Those are just a small handful of the benefits that we've seen from the apprenticeship program.
Do any of the other panelists have any additional ones? The retention, the stickiness, the excitement, the training talent your way. Susie, do you have some?
Yeah, so I think what we also kind of an added benefit was we have medical assistants in our clinics that are extremely talented and wanted to kind of move a little bit up in the pipeline, and we have a preceptor program now where we train these folks how to be preceptors and train, and then they also get a little bit of added bump in their pay. So it's been a way for us to not only teach folks how to be MAs in our organization, but to help our current MA workforce move along that career path.
So that career pathway, being able to let them see that. All right, Jennifer, what's your opinion about registering apprenticeships, and what are the role of community leaders in registering these apprenticeships?
Sure, that's a great question. One of the questions we get a lot is, so what's the difference between a registered program, a non-registered program? How do you know what if one is registered? What does it take to register it? I like to think of it, I use the analogy of in the world of education. That's actually where I grew up, where I spent most of my career in the education world. And when I first learned of this registered apprenticeship model and the whole idea of registering with USDOL, which was very foreign to me before I moved into this position, I recognized it as it's almost an accreditation process within an apprenticeship model, just like you have an accreditation process within education. So if you're familiar with education, if you've gone to college or you have kids that have gone to college or are going to college, you pay attention to if that college has been accredited, meaning that there's been an oversight body that has has worked with them to make sure that they're really creating rigorous, relevant programs for their students. Registering, it works the same way. The USDOL is the accrediting body that helps these apprenticeships be developed in a way that has rigor to them. It has some structure. There are expectations of the program. There's assistance, there's guidance in not only creating, but once you have them created, but supporting those programs. And then there's also accountability associated with it. So the programs do need to are held accountable to certain metrics within their program. So we've heard a lot about diversity here on the panel. There is an expectation that you will be reaching a diverse population in recruiting for your apprenticeship program, and there is an expectation that you will actually hire as apprentices a diverse population. So there's that expectation there. So when someone asks me, is it important, I kind of put that on them and say, is that important to you to have that level of reputation? To know that, yes, you can consider yourself accredited. So if someone is looking at possibly becoming an apprentice in your program, and if they do any research on apprenticeships, they're going to recognize that you've got that value. And then vice versa. If you have an apprentice go through that program and that apprentice would leave, which we don't like to see happen, but occasionally that does happen for some reasons, and they have to move, say, somewhere across the country for a particular reason. Anyone, again, that is within the apprenticeship world, if they know that apprentice has gone through a registered program, it's going to have higher value than someone that has gone through an apprenticeship, has been considered an apprenticeship, but not been registered, and not really knowing what that model looked like that person went through. So it's really a win-win on both ends, both the employer side and the apprentice side when it is registered.
So the apprentices actually get a DOL certificate?
They do, yes. So one of the benefits that they receive, the apprentice receives, is a certificate of completion of the apprenticeship program when they graduate from that apprentice program. And many employers who, again, have any hold value in apprenticeships, know they hold that higher than a educational credential because of the fact that it demonstrates that person has on-the-job skills as well as as well as the education behind it. So we're seeing kind of that movement, that shift across the country and in our state as to the value of that registered apprenticeship certificate in association with a college degree. We like to see both, but it really is starting to be recognized as high value.
Out of a show of hands, out of the 4 of you, how many of yours are registered?
We started the process.
Yeah, started the process in career-wise, yet to do it.
Yep.
All right. For the 4 of you, Maureen, Kim, Chris, and Susie, can you tell us about your apprentice selection process and the type of candidates you've seen? You can start again with Susie.
Sure. So we partner very closely with our workforce centers. We hold information sessions at the beginning of each cohort and really pipeline our candidates through our workforce centers. We rely on them a lot. We see candidates that are straight out of high school, and we also see folks that are second career or maybe hadn't had a career and this is what they want to do. So a variation and lots of variation in skill and what their end goal is.
And when you did an open house, how many people showed up for an open house in your apprenticeship?
Well, so last cohort was, we pre-screened about 110 folks with, trying to remember, Arapahoe, Douglas, Jefferson, I think 3 different workforce centers. So it was, I thought it was a good show up.
Oh, people interested in doing that is. All right, Kim, how do you screen? What kind of high school students do you get, and how do you screen them?
We get high school students either through our connections directly with high schools. So our program is known, one of the smartest things you can do as an employer is invite teachers and CTE counselors to your facility. I did that. I had 50 of them in my building and I couldn't get them out because they were fascinated because they had no idea these opportunities existed. So I rely on high school principals and counselors and things like that to refer young people to our program. And then of course we also use CareerWise as another pipeline. I've also worked with Dan at the Workforce Center because vets also make really wonderful apprentices for us, and probably in the field in their military career they've actually used something that has our optics in it. So there's a good connection there. And one of the things that I've learned, particularly with these young people, because when you get them from CareerWise, they're 16 years old, is my litmus test for those young people is they email and say, or they apply through CareerWise and they say, I want to apply, and I record when I have sent them an email, and then I see how long it takes them to respond, and did they answer the questions that I asked them. Because that tells me a lot about that individual. Are they responsive? Are they detail-oriented? And so I was able to weed out, we had 11 people apply to the program last year. I weeded out 6 just through that process. And we were only going to hire 2, but we had 5 wonderful young people sign up, and we've hired all 5 of them.
Fantastic. I've seen a couple of Chris's open houses, but they're at the site sometimes. How do you weed out and select candidates, and what type of programs do you do to kind of get the word out?
Yeah, so we partner with the workforce centers in the 7 counties. Boulder's been a great partner to us because we're in the backyard. We get a lot of referrals from Boulder. But in terms of context of our program, when I started at the end of 2016, we were launching our first academy class. And we had 13 applicants when I walked in the door, and I think we got that up to about 40. And our first cohort was about 12 students. We just launched our 7th cohort 2 weeks ago with 20 apprentices, and I'm averaging 180 applicants per cohort now. Because everybody's surrounded in tech with their phone. Everybody wants to get into tech. They see how much money people make. So our process is really, we're screening for potential. The things we're looking for are a passion for technology, a persistent personality, critical thinking skills, and the ability to communicate and collaborate. So at the end of every cohort, we've revamped our process. So with the high demand and the high skill level required, we have 10 steps that an individual has to go through. They have to apply online. They fill out an online application. We use an online assessment tool that tells us how well do they map to our team and their ability to solve problems. And they do pre-work. And this is where we vet out a lot of people. The reason we do pre-work is sometimes people want to get into tech, they haven't been exposed to it. So the pre-work does 2 things for us. A, it screens people out. When they do the pre-work, they say, boy, I don't want to be doing this 40 or 50 hours a week. And then B, it gives us an indication of can they learn the technology. So they spend, depending on if someone has had any coding experience in the past, and there is no coding experience required, but the applicant will spend 15 to 30 hours on this pre-work. And once they notify us that they've completed the pre-work, we review it, we do a phone screen, we bring them in for a face-to-face interview, we check their references, and then we make the offers. So we continually tweak our process. Again, we learn every time, just when we think we have it, we find a hole that we try to fix. Our CEO, Heather, she was on CNBC Power Lunch about 3 weeks ago for about 7 minutes, and we were watching her, and I had my phone, and we were all in the conference room, and she started talking about our program and what our company does, and I start to see people apply on my phone. So it's like ding, 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 and we're laughing, and my phone's ringing off the hook from this. So just from that CNBC Power Lunch for our next January cohort, we're at 280 applicants. So we've got to screen because it's difficult. Technology is tough. Yeah, it's cool, it's fun, it's rewarding. It's very tough. So, we tighten our screening process all the time. And what you said, I notice all the time is I see how quickly people respond to the different steps. And if it's been 2 weeks, it's like, are you really interested in this? And our CRM tracking system tells me how long it takes. But, that's really the key step is our screening process.
All right, Maureen.
I think for us, because we rely on the job fairs, in fact, Citizen here, he attends many of the workforce job fairs that we attend. Because our program, it's a 100-hour training program. It's a combination of classroom, on-the-job training, and then at-home study. And part of our interview process, before we, part of our vetting process is we have them come through a full day. So they have to attend an 8-hour training of our basic, caregiver basics, full day of training, and by the end of that day, they'll know, and we'll know, if they're going to be a good fit for Home Care of the Rockies. This is not your average full-time or part-time job. You really want to have that passion to work with older adults. The training and the apprenticeship program has been a big attraction. So our applicant pool has significantly increased, and our younger applicants. And part of the learning process, I think you spoke to the learning process of the apprenticeship, is we didn't even know, how do you even get involved in an apprenticeship, and what does that mean for the home care industry? And because we are the first home care agency to be an approved apprenticeship program, all that was so daunting, and one of the criteria was to reduce the age of our caregivers. With our license, you have to be at least 18, but to be perfectly honest, when we were hiring the 18-year-olds, we were thinking that wouldn't be a good pool or a candidate pool for us. But boy, have we changed our minds on that, because they are. In fact, we just graduated through our Home Care 100, an apprenticeship, apprentice, Ileana, at 19 years old. She just took it, and ran with it, attended every single class, was probably one of the first graduates to do it within a year, which is pretty incredible because it is a 100-hour training program of the classroom work and home study. So it really opened our eyes to a new pool of candidates, a younger pool, and who really are embracing the training component, particularly the on-the-job training component. So the recruiting process and the vetting process has really, that has helped us.
Great. You see a couple paving the way themes going up here too, some of those firsts in certain industries. I have a few more questions, but I actually want to stop and actually ask you guys if you have any questions for today's panelists. Anything? All right. Patrick.
What's the gender ethnic profiles of your programs?
Without my stats, and I've learned in the apprenticeship program, I keep stats on absolutely everything, depending on how you want to slice and dice it. But in terms of right now, prior to our September cohort, I haven't rolled those in, we're about 33% women in our program. IT right now is below 15%, 39% individuals of color, and about 30% veterans in terms of our mix of apprentices.
Anybody else?
Well, just for our industry, I mean, 80%, or I would say probably 80 to maybe even 90% are female, just because it's the industry that's attractive. So we would do, we know that, the caregivers in all shapes, sizes, colors, and the more we could have a diverse population, the better. So we're working on that.
Okay, Jennifer. You have two mics on one side, that doesn't help.
And I probably have a quiet voice. I just wanted to make one point related to that because I've seen some great progress in that. We have been doing targeted work in expanding apprenticeship opportunities within non-traditional industries, but also diverse populations for about 18 months now, which is when we received some federal funding to help us move this work forward in the state. Statistically, when you look at the demographics of existing apprentices in our state, 91% are male, and 91% are male, 67% are white, and it's very, it's not even, put it that way. And what I can say is in the 18 months since we've been doing that work, those numbers have been changing significantly. For example, in the 18 months, when you look at just the population that has been brought into this, about 30%, it's lining up to what Chris said, 30% are females of that new population. And we've got a much higher population of diversity and a much higher population of veterans. So kudos to programs like this who are doing it. And that just speaks to, I guess, some of the success of the work in expanding not only within industries, but really pulling in entities like workforce centers and community colleges who work with diverse populations and using them as a recruiting stream as well.
Great. Yes.
How many of your apprentices have identified as having one or more disabilities?
Can anybody answer those? Sorry, Chris, I should have told you to have your stats.
Yeah.
None of my apprentices that I know of, we have to collect that data because we're an affirmative action employer. None that there's still a stigma with people. So when the government required us to start collecting data on disabilities, even people with disabilities would not self-identify as having a disability. So to my knowledge, none of my current apprentices have identified as such, but I suspect that one or more of them may have one.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. So again, we collect that information because we have to enter that into the rapid system that we use to manage our apprentices. And again, offhand, but I think, out of the 70 we've brought on board under the registration, I think I've had 3 that have labeled themselves with disabilities. We're talking Jeff earlier, we've got applicants we're working with DVR to try to figure out how we can work with individuals who are hearing impaired, because we have some strong candidates, but we're a small company and, you know, we're investigating. We have the third meeting coming up to see what we can do for that population.
And that's Jeff Setters, raise your hand, with Department of Education.
And I'll just echo.
There's some acronyms going on here.
Yeah.
In alignment to what Chris just mentioned, statistically, when we look at the last 18 months again, the number of people with disabilities who have been given this opportunity has increased quite significantly. And part of that, again, is the better partnerships, I think, with entities like DVR. And we have also been putting out different funding through the workforce system to help support individuals with disabilities and encourage them to plug into it with more apprenticeship opportunities. So we are trying to take some steps in with that population as well.
I had a question right here, yes.
With affordable housing becoming a real challenge for people, even in middle-skill jobs, what do you feel is either your responsibility to support that effort or provide collaborations with local resources to make sure that you have a continued talent pipeline?
You know, we're located in Boulder, which is very expensive. And again, without my numbers in front of me, but probably from our apprenticeship pool, probably about 80% of the individuals commute to Boulder, outside of the Boulder area. So, you know, we're aware of it, but we really actively aren't doing much. I mean, I'm on the Boulder County workforce, and I know that comes up as, you know, what the Boulder area and increased expensive of housing, and we look at that as, you know, we're expanding too, as, you know, should we be looking at other areas potentially?
We haven't actively tackled that problem, but we're also located in Boulder, but most of my employee base is coming from Longmont, Westminster, Arvada. I have one apprentice that is commuting from Castle Pines. 16 years old, he's commuting from Castle Pines. So they're finding a way, more so from not so much from a housing standpoint, but one of our single biggest barriers is transportation issues for folks. Some of these schools that I'm working with are in South Denver, and one of the biggest barriers why people aren't raising their hands is a transportation issue, and we have yet to find a solve for that.
I think that's, same for us, because again, with our population, and we just talked about this morning, so I'm so glad I'm here today, because you know, we have to address that issue with our caregivers, because they want to do this work, but they can't find places to live, and they have, you know, so many other issues, and also transportation, because we don't have a public transportation system here. That's good enough for them. So yeah, we need to address it, and we're looking to explore partnerships.
So I'm actually going to add on to that. So as the Boulder Chamber, we represent over 1,350 businesses in the Boulder area, and they let us know the last 3 years the three main issues that affect them the most are workforce development, workforce housing, and workforce mobility. So as a chamber of businesses saying this is an issue, we're trying to refocus what we're doing as well to concentrate on these three areas, and business is leading. And you hear it up here, industry is leading some of these workforce initiatives, and industry is trying to take a stand in some of those other areas as well for change, because those three things have to go together. You have a ton of people to fill jobs, and if they can't live here or get here, that's an issue. If you have a way to get here and they can live here, but you have nobody skilled for the jobs, that's an issue. So it's a trifecta. It's all three together. Any other questions? Oh, wow. That just popped up. I didn't get it earlier.
Just because the apprenticeship is new to some people, especially when you talk to younger people who are in college or maybe out of college, how do you explain the difference between internship and apprenticeship, and why we should push more people and more students to take apprenticeships versus internships as they're traditionally trained in the mindset of taking?
Kim, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, so we have a very distinct internship program, and it's typically engineering. So we're getting engineering students in their junior and senior year, and they come in, and it's for a specified period of time. Is probably the best way I would differentiate between That apprenticeship is we're preparing you for a career. You know, as I said, the investment of training that we have to do for somebody to become a skilled optician, it takes years. I've been in manufacturing for a very long time, and I could train you to run a punch press in about an hour. It takes me years to train you how to shape glass. So the apprenticeship is truly we're looking for people that are looking to make this a career. And one of the things we talk about is just because you're starting out on the production floor, there are so many other career opportunities in manufacturing. You could go down the engineering track. One of my young female apprentices, I met her at a high school event, and she was interested in becoming an engineer. My best engineers are those that started on the manufacturing floor, and so we're affording her that opportunity to learn the discipline of fabrication, but also she's partnering with some of our engineers to learn what it takes to be an engineer as well. So to me, that's the distinction. An internship is usually 6 months to a year assignment where you're doing some work. An apprenticeship is you're preparing yourself for a career in that field.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I have college students who, think that an apprenticeship is an internship, and I just want to work there for the summer and then go back. But the same thing. I mean, we're working to create as much talent, much trained and experienced talent as we can through the apprenticeship. So we don't offer internships because again, we're trying to get people to the point where they are a junior developer and are being productive because the demand is so high.
And I think for us, yeah, we're looking for more of a career. We want people to look at this as a career, and that's why we're trying to change that level of professionalism.
All right, I have a question over here, yes. So I'm sold on the value of the apprenticeship program, but what I don't really have a good grip on yet is how long it took you to set up and kind of what the maintenance investment in doing that is, what kind of structure you have in place with your company, because we're a really small company. This is really interesting to me to try and get the people that we need. I just don't know if we're yet prepared for the management aspect of it. So do you want to take that, Susie? Or actually, Jennifer, Susie, Chris, I know you can all talk to it. And Jennifer, maybe you could talk a little bit about the intermediary model.
I will, yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Susie.
I mean, I know at least for our apprenticeship, it's truly myself and we have some folks in HR that help out with it. The actual setup and getting it going with the Department of Labor was pretty quick. It was about 3 months. To get the initial paperwork and everything done. So I think it just depends on, and from a financial perspective, so you do have to invest in these folks. So at least for us, we cover half of their tuition for the MA program at Arapahoe Community College. So that's the financial investment that we take on. But I think it just depends on how detailed and that you want to make your apprenticeship. But it doesn't. It hasn't taken a lot of infrastructure in our organization.
Go ahead, Jen.
Thanks. So one of the areas, again, we are focusing on in the state, recognizing that 99% of our businesses are small and mid-sized in Colorado, and many of them don't have the infrastructure that a larger company like Centura might have to be able to support this. We are looking at creating group apprenticeship programs, which mean, I don't want to get into too many details of how this all works, but it essentially means there is an intermediary or some type of entity that is the administrator of the paperwork, the connection with USDOL in accountability, those kinds of things, the connector of the partners who might be part of that model, so that that piece is not put on the burden of one specific business. So that intermediary would work with multiple businesses with the same apprentice opportunity, but each of the businesses would hire the apprentice and not have to worry about some of the busy work, the paperwork, the administration tasks that might go along with it. So that's one thing that we're looking at. We're really trying to encourage. In fact, we just put out a grant a couple of weeks ago from our office to encourage that model to happen around the state. And we are also really, as I mentioned early on, encouraging partnerships, and hopefully those partnerships will help alleviate the burden being on one particular entity that is part of that model. The other really great thing about the apprenticeship model, it is not a one-size-fits-all. I mean, it is not one model that you have to take and make it work in your own company. It's something that you develop in a way that fits the needs of your company. You create what it looks like. You create the partnerships that you want to have involved. So you do get a lot of say in the ultimate model.
We have time for one more question over there.
So how do you market these programs to managers on your staff who might be reluctant to them based on the fact that they might be too busy or they don't have enough resources to train someone?
You stole my other question.
That's great. I'm glad somebody asked it. I know I was talking to Chris about this earlier. If anyone want to answer that, how does it change your culture? How do you market it to your current staff?
Well, we're a small company. We're about 60, 70 people, and it truly is the lifeblood of what we do. So internally, you know, we live and breathe our apprenticeship. I know in terms of talking to sort of our 3 avenues, or software development for our customers, software development with an apprentice on the software, and if the apprentice bills 1,000 hours, the customer can hire that apprentice for free, or a talent pipeline where our clients are looking to us to provide them trained apprenticeship talent, diverse talent. What I've found, just in terms of starting with Tectonic and learning about the apprenticeship, is really educating the employer base in the white-collar world that there is such thing as a software developer apprenticeship and the values and benefits of it. I've seen more challenges there because of what we do. Internally, we live and breathe it, but talking to companies who are dying for IT talent, to educate them about what an apprenticeship is, that it's workplace learning, it's training, it's not a boot camp, these people are ready to go, and trying to find a champion within these different companies who can say, hey, we need to start breeding our own talent, here's a great way to do it. So for us, the entry point into a company is a lot of times through HR, talent acquisition, or the C-level because of the diversity component. But again, a lot of training and education to our customer base about what an apprenticeship is about.
Time for one more.
I sold it to my managers by, you have senior level technicians doing entry level work. And if I have an apprentice, I can teach them to do the entry level work so you can deploy your senior level technicians to do the more technical work. And they fought over the 5 apprentices that I brought on this time. So I spread them out. I gave each of them one. So it worked out.
All right. Well, let's take an opportunity to thank today's panelists. Controlling their own destiny and leading industries. So thank you again for being a part of this, and I hope you guys got a lot of questions answered. It sounds like there's some enthusiasm about apprenticeships, and thank you for being here today.